See, let me scoot up so we can see both of us. Thank you. All right. So we are here to go over your lesson plan. And let me see, first of all, what did you plan on teaching?
I planned on teaching a how to use dialogue in narrative writing lesson.
Okay.
And that was based on seeing my baseline writing samples for narratives
Mhm.
and noticing that my students did not properly use quotation marks, punctuation marks, or indent after every speaker had spoken.
Oh, wow. Okay, that makes sense. And which curriculum standard do you plan on using for that?
Well, the standard that I'm looking at is regarding the English language arts standard under literacy, writing 4.3. Students are to write narratives to develop real or imagined experiences or events using effective technique, descriptive details, and a clear event sequence. And I'm particularly looking at the standard B, which is use dialogue and description to plan and develop experiences and events to show the responses of characters to situations, how they're responding to the problems of their narrative,
And
how
actual
their
responses. Okay.
character is being built based on their dialogue and their response.
Actually, that sounds sort of fun. And so you said that you've been working on it and you did a baseline. How did you do the baseline?
I used our district assessments for writing as a baseline.
Okay.
And at the end of next week, our summative assessment is due for this narrative project. So
Oh,
all the
okay.
fourth
Good.
graders or an entire district are utilizing that same prompt and the same scoring guide paired with it.
That's helpful. Do you have any students that you think you'll need to modify that are in special needs or accommodate for?
I have one particular student who did not qualify for special education services last year after being fully assessed. It is a student who does utilize speech and language services, but the reading level is at a kindergarten reading level. So part of this assessment does have sources and passages that the students are supposed to read first.
Right.
And then answer questions based on those passages. And so I plan on reading aloud those passages and those answer choices to that particular student.
And so when that happens, what are you going to be doing with the other students? What are they doing in their?
They are independently working through their tasks.
Okay, so everybody's working independently, not in any groups.
Yes.
Okay. And I just asked that question. Let's see, how about materials other than your writing? What would you need for that?
Oh, beautiful. So I'm going to utilize technology
Oh, good.
and utilize our projector
Okay.
and project a sample exemplar of the steps of how to write dialogue on the board. And I'll be able to mark it up using a pen so that it's projecting so that everyone in the class can see. I'm also utilizing some curriculum from our district writing curriculum called Step Up to Writing.
Oh,
And the
good.
students need journals and writing tools as well.
Okay.
And they all have those in their drawers of materials.
I see that here. So I see that you have I do, we do, and you do. Awesome. All right. So how will you know what kind of assessment at the end that you'll know that the students have learned what you've been asking them to do?
Well, I'm going to utilize a checking for understanding kind of formative assessment, informing the instruction while it's happening. And that's going to be looking at and conferencing with the students on their writing samples in their journals.
Okay. Any specific evidence that you're looking for in their journals or?
Specific evidence would be in allowing the students to properly use those quotation marks, punctuation marks, and be sure that they are indenting after every speaker speaks.
Is there any type of self-assessment that the students would be using?
No, not for this particular project.
Okay.
But that's beautiful to think about for an extension.
Well, and I'm thinking in the future, how are you going to assess the learning of this lesson and how it relates to other lessons? What are you going to do with it? So,
well, I will absolutely be assessing it later on in more of a summative assessment when I give their narrative assessment next week.
which we're having already. Okay. And so when I'm doing this observation, what do you want me to pay attention? What would be helpful for you?
Something that would be very helpful to me during this observation, it would be how to streamline that assessment piece. Like you mentioned, you said, how are the students self-assessing?
Mhm.
Well, the moment you asked that question, I thought to myself, I should put a rubric on the board so that the students can very quickly reflect on their own writing process prior to me coming in.
Right. And I'm
Um,
thinking if you have a student that has special needs or needs that accommodation, that just having that visual is going to be
Mhm.
a better asset for them too.
Yeah, so I may incorporate that into my
Mhm.
lesson
Okay.
on Monday when it's observed. And because I think that's very valuable. But I'm really looking at with this whole writing component, it's really time consuming to
Mhm.
conference with every student, to give them effective on the spot grading
Right.
or feedback
Yes.
and check their understanding. Throughout my career, it's been a challenge for me to give that.
So could you make it for the next, like, that's your future lesson? Is having that feedback later on? I mean, I know that
Can you
you're doing,
elaborate on that?
so even though you're having them do it now,
Mhm.
then afterwards giving them the feedback and reviewing it individually, so that you could
Yes,
do it in the next lesson would actually pertain to that.
100%.
So you won't have time to do it now, obviously. because it's gonna take time
Absolutely.
For writing. And what way or what way of a recording the information is most useful for you? Okay, so I guess when I'm painting, what you want me to pay attention to is sort of get an idea of how you're going to streamline it.
Mhm.
And I'll just write it down if that's okay. Is there anything
That would
else
be
that I could do for
beautiful.
you?
Well, I do know that you are having a video recording, and
Mhm.
I feel that that is a powerful way to reflect as an educator.
Yeah,
Even just simple mannerisms or how one's posture is while teaching.
right.
Um, it gives me a different perspective. So that recording tool would be valuable.
Oh, yeah, yeah, for me too.
Yes.
I did have a question on your California state standards for teaching or your standards for teaching.
Yes.
What goal do you think would be best? I mean, we need to come up with an agreed goal. And what area
Yes.
are you needing some help on, or you believe that would be appropriate for you?
One of the standards that I'm really honing in on this year is assessing students for learning. And so what I wanted to do was really take a look at 5.4,
Mhm.
which is using assessment data to establish learning goals and to plan, differentiate, and modify instruction.
Okay,
The modifying instruction piece, I think, is an area that I really want to grow in. The other two areas with learning goals and differentiation,
Mhm.
I feel has been part of my daily practice this year.
Oh, good.
But to support that instructional piece when it comes to allowing students that modified or supported scaffolded instruction.
So when you're trying to meet this goal, what type of evidence will you have to be able to show that you've met that goal?
I can use progress monitoring tools that I
Mhm.
have in place. That are small group plans. So I've got observation. This student is in need of more regrouping practice. So it just lets
That's a
me know.
great plan. I mean, that's terrific. I love that you do that.
And then I have it within my writing groups too, or my reading groups, so that I'm able to note certain details. You know, my student is able to chunk words, for example, walling.
Okay.
My student is remembering the rules why and or for why and the sounds or. So I do want to find a better solution for the way that I'm documenting it just for myself.
Mhm.
But I feel like it's pretty organized, and I feel like with more practice that my goal is to try to get data weekly,
Mhm.
but I'd like to have it be daily when I meet with my instructional groups.
Yeah. Have you ever seen where the students do their own assessments too? And the data tasks where there's a graph that you could actually have them fill out? that might be part of that self-assessment that we were talking
I
about.
would love that because I think that students should have that buy-in.
And it will help them to have that buy-in, and even for your students that need the modifications too.
Mhm.
I think that even just a little bit of a line and seeing it going up and down sort of excites them.
Very
Like,
much
hey, we
so.
get to do something. So I think that we're all set for the plan now. We're set for Monday
Yep, about
at
9
9
o'clock.
o'clock.
Mhm.
And we're going over the standard for the teaching of profession of 5.4, looking at assessment
Mhm.
and objectives. We've covered your lesson plan and standards. I think that we're pretty good. Did you need to get that? You can get that.
Yes.
Okay. They're probably looking for you.
Hello, this is Mrs. Connington. Hello, Joy. How are you? I would rather than not read the questions to the students. Okay, yeah, I would rather take that off. I don't know, I haven't sat down with a student and had them take the test with me. I think that sounds valuable because then I'm really getting to know if they are reading at their level. Okay. How interesting. Yes, I think that skews the results. Well, thank you. I didn't know that either. You're like, well, is it on for them? I'm like, I really have not sat down with a student this year because we do so many, I listen to a read every day. But with the AR, that's part of their independent practice. So thank you so much. I'm in a meeting right now, so I got to jam, but thank you for calling. Have a happy weekend. Thank you. Bye-bye. Awesome. Is it off? Okay, do you want to?
You know, I just had one more question,
Yes.
actually. And looking at the equity and trying to make it fair for everybody in your classroom. I love the fact that you're working on modifications. Is there anything else that you could do that would help make it at an even playing ground for everybody?
So what I do in most cases for equity is I utilize equity sticks.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
So that all students have a fair chance of being selected to
Gotcha.
share their thoughts on the learning.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
And so I do know the students in our classrooms' abilities, so I'm able to scaffold questions so that students feel successful or
Nice.
state the question in a different way,
Okay.
or enable them to share their learning with words versus writing. So modifying it on the spot in a way.
So that's going to work for your special ed. And then do you have any ALL?
Not in this classroom, but what we do work on is listening and speaking. And I always go back to that equity piece
Yeah.
of everyone in the class should be heard by someone, not one person being heard by all. So I practice Kagan strategies in my classroom, which will be part of this lesson on Monday, where after students have a chance to journal their dialogue that they're practicing writing, they're going to participate in a Kagan strategy and structure called stand up, hand up, pair up, where they stand up, they grab their journal, push in their chair, walk around the class. When the music stops, they put their hand up and they partner with someone. And then they greet their partner, do shoulder to shoulder, and look at me as the educator. And I prompt them on which partner is going to go first. Whichever student has the most animals, whichever student is the tallest is going first. So then the students, each and every one of them, are being heard by someone.
Excellent.
So that really supports the students to feel like they're a part of the class and that they want to have something to share.
Yes.
I've got kids frantically just trying to write things down. So every single student in this classroom is producing their best effort that they put forward because they want to share it with someone.
I love that you
It's
do that.
not that they're just hiding at their desk and not producing anything.
And that's what I enjoy coming to your class, just because I can feel that general caring and wanting everybody to have that chance to speak up and feel valued. That's really
Mhm.
important. So I love observing your class. So I look forward to Monday. It's going to be exciting.
Thank you.
And thank you for letting me have this time.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.